Hi there, thanks for picking up this Sun Mosaic kit. A mosaic is kind of like building your own puzzle. So we're gonna put some pieces together to create our awesome sunshine to remind us that there are brighter days ahead and we can make today super bright. Your kit comes with all sorts of parts and pieces, but we're going to concentrate on a few of them, like our makeshift paintbrush. We're gonna set aside the glitter bits, and we're gonna be using our paint and our little cardboard pieces. We're gonna be painting these cardboard pieces to place onto our sunshine background. Now, this part is up to you. If you'd like to extend the project, you can totally paint the background of your sunshine. I'm going to choose to leave it the color of the cardboard, so it's a bit of a contrast from the paint colors. But again, if you want to extend out this project, this is a fun one to paint first. Make sure to paint the front side because the back side has a fun little spot, so you can hang this up on the wall when you're all done. Since I'm going to start painting my little pieces first, I'm going to want to make sure that I'm working on top of, I have these fun plastic trays, but you could use a cookie sheet with tin foil on it. Perhaps you have a big tablecloth from like a party to cover your table space, because you want to protect your work surface. And you'll want to make sure that you're wearing clothes that can get messy too. I'm going to choose some of these pieces just to lay out on my tray. Just of all different shapes and sizes. If there's some pencil on them, that's okay, because we're gonna end up covering that up in the end. And I don't want to put out all the pieces, but just enough to maybe cover with one of my colors, like say yellow. And you'll want to give your color a nice shake. Mix up that paint, and I'm going to use one color at a time. That's just one way of doing this project. If you want to put out all of your colors, you totally could, and your pieces could get multiple colors on them, and that'd be totally fine. This is all about how you want to do your project. Now I'm using this makeshift paintbrush. You might have a paintbrush that you can use at your house, and your fingers might get messy. That's okay. If you want to keep a little handy dandy rag or paper towel nearby to wipe your hands off, that's okay too. So I am covering up all the pieces that I have on this tray with yellow. Again, if you'd like to mix your colors, if you'd like some of your orange paint to be on some of your yellow pieces, that's totally okay. For some of my younger artists, mixing the colors is a whole lot of the fun, so it's okay if they want to double dip their colors. In fact, maybe I'll do that with a couple of my pieces. Let's shake up my orange. Maybe we'll do a little double dipping. If you want to pour a little bit of each of these colors into a paper plate, if you know your artist likes to double dip, that way these main color pots don't get their colors mixed up. That way they stay in their original colors. I like the way that's looking, so I'm gonna make a few more pieces that have the mixed colors. Now that this set is all colored up, I'm gonna let these dry. And if you have a nice spot for them to dry, you can remove these pieces and your artist can add new pieces on top. This is all about how your workflow is going to work best for you. Next batch. You'll notice that my finger is getting quite messy because I'm holding down each piece as I go. Remember, it's okay to get a little messy. All right, that's this set. Time to go for batch number 3. For this last section, I've decided to use the gold paint, and I'd prefer that my original paint color, that orange and yellow, doesn't mix, so I'm gonna wipe off my finger and wipe off my paintbrush. Our makeshift paintbrush might not clean up in water as easily, so I'm just gonna wipe it off on a rag that then I can wash in the washing machine. You could also use a paper towel. Wanna mix this up. And paint away. I'm trying to get my cardboard pieces as covered as possible. So I'm taking my time to get all those details. Now that I've completed all of these pieces with the gold paint, I'm gonna make sure that these two pieces don't stick together. So I'm gonna separate them out a little bit as they dry. And then I'll make sure that all the caps are back on my paints, and I'll be able to toss this little bit that's on the end of my makeshift paintbrush. Then we just have to wait for all of our pieces to dry, and we'll start up the next bit of our project. My pieces are dry, and I wanted to point something out. Because this cardboard got a little bit wet, sometimes the backings might pop off, and this is actually really cool texture too. If you'd prefer to paint this side with a similar color, you still should have a little bit of your paints left over if you'd like to paint the bumpy side for your puzzle making or your mosaic making. I'd also like to point out that at this point, my plastic tree is too small for my giant sunshine. So I'm working directly on the table because I'm working on an art table, and it's okay if glue gets on here. I'm okay, but make sure that it's okay with the grown-up that's helping you out today. I like to do a dry fit first, which means I'm going to arrange my pieces how I want them without the glue. So I'm not gonna put the glue down just yet. I'm going to make sure that I like where I have my pieces first, and then I'll go back and add in the glue or glue down the pieces. You get to arrange these pieces however you like, in whatever kind of pattern or order that you like. And as you're going along, you might find that some of your pieces might be too big for an area. So you might want to keep some scissors nearby to cut them down as you need. But I'm going to keep arranging before I do cutting. I'm just seeing what looks best together. I personally like to put different colors near each other, but you might want to create a kind of pattern where maybe the outside area is one color and then it transitions into a different color in the middle. This is totally your artwork, and you get to decide how to arrange everything. You might not use all of your pieces, and that's okay too. There might be some leftover ones. I am trying to get my pieces to live pretty close together so I don't see too much of the background. And even though this piece doesn't fit perfectly on there, that's okay. I can always trim that down, but I'm gonna leave that as a placeholder just so that I know to trim that when I'm ready. Since I'm not gluing down the pieces, it means I could change my mind and choose a different piece instead. But if there was glue on there, then it would kind of get stuck into position. So I like to plan this out first. And then once I love where everything is, then I'll start gluing. I also have a handy bin that I put my pieces in so I can see all these pieces easily. now that I have most of the areas filled in and I'm liking the way my pieces look, I'm going to start trimming some of them. So where they overlap an area, I'm going to want to cut that with the scissors. The trick is to not cut too much and to save your little pieces because they could be good filler for some of the other areas. Like this piece might fit up here. This is like a puzzle, but you get to create the different shapes in that puzzle. So this shape is a little bit unique. I'm going to hover this piece above the one that's below and then bring this one back on top to get a little bit of a guide. If you want, you can even put a little pencil mark where this piece meets up. I'm going to just use my scissors to kind of trace. And then remove the piece. Place it back where it goes. And if you need a little bit of grown-up assistance for this part, sometimes cardboard can be kind of tricky and tough to cut. And you'll notice I have to go back in and cut some more so that this piece fits. Maybe I just decide to cut this whole piece off, make it a smaller one. This is your mosaic. You get to decide how these pieces fit together. All right, I think I have the main pieces where I like them. So I'm going to start gluing them down. And areas that kind of have some more background space, I can always fill those in with smaller pieces after I've glued these big ones down. Time to take out the glue and your cotton swabs because we're going to start gluing down our pieces. So I'm going to dip the cotton swab in the glue and lift up one piece at a time. And get a decent layer of glue on the background. You don't need too much, but you also don't want too little. We're gonna go through this whole mosaic and get all these pieces with glue. If you feel like you need to take a break as you're going, go for it. Just make sure your mosaic is in a nice safe spot so that, I don't know, the wind doesn't blow this around. I'm gonna go through and make sure I've got glue on the backs of all of my pieces. And if a little bit of the glue shows through, on the background, that's okay. It's gonna end up drying clear. When your cotton swab starts to get kind of long and stringy, I like to twist it up so that I can keep using it. That way this cotton swab can last a long time. When I think I have most of my pieces glued down, you can either move them a bit to see if they wiggle. Ooh, like this piece is gonna need some glue underneath. Or you can do a bit of an earthquake test. Just a little earthquake. And these pieces moved, so I know I need to glue them down. Since this piece is lifted up a little bit, I'm going to get a little glue underneath one edge. And then hold it down for a few moments so that it stays back in place. Now that all my main pieces are glued down, I can bring back over my extra pieces and see if they might fit in some of these kind of bigger openings. And you get to decide how you want to do this part. If you want to fill more of them in, if you like the way the spaces look, you can leave them as is. You're the artist. Or maybe you even want to take a little break and then come back to it later to fill those extra pieces in. I've got all my pieces in position and leftover pieces that maybe I could use for another project. And next up, we're gonna figure out how to add a face to our sunshine if you'd like to. Since we're moving on to a new part of our project, don't forget to put the glue lid back on your glue container so you can use that again. And we're gonna need our black and white paper. And then you probably have loads of circles around your house. These are little cups or containers and like a bottle cap. We can even use the circle that's on our glue container. We're also going to need a pencil. I brought my sunshine back because I'm going to test out how big or small I want the eyes to be. I could make my eyes really big like this cup, or smaller like my tinier circle here, or the size of the cap. This is just a good way to test out what you think might look good. I decided to go pretty big with my eyes, so I'm going to find a nice edge of my paper because I don't want to waste too much of the paper. And I'm going to use my pencil and trace the edge of my cup. You'll notice that I'm holding down the cup while I trace so that my cup doesn't move. But then when I'm ready and I've traced the whole circle and I remove the cup, I've got a handy circle to cut out. I need 2 eyes, so I'm going to cut 2 of these circles. Maybe you want to give your sunshine sunglasses. You could draw out some sunglasses on this paper. Then I'm just going to follow my pencil marks and I'm going to slowly cut out those circle shapes. This might take some practice, but that's okay. I love scissor practice. Because I want some highlights in my eyes, I brought over the white paper and some smaller circle shapes. Your shapes don't have to be circles. You could cut out a star shape or a heart shape. Remember, this is your sunshine character and you get to make it how you want to make it. I happen to have a handy hole punch, so I'm going to use this for the smaller circles. If you don't have one of these, you can totally cut out small circles like that, I bet. I used this smaller cap to cut out those circles, but I thought they were a little small, so I used the bottom of the sequin container to make some bigger highlights. I'm going to glue these up so that they're all one piece. Now that I have my big bright eyes in position, I'm thinking about making a smiley mouth out of this black page, and I'm planning on folding this in half so that I only have to make one side of the smile. And I'm going to cut this into about a square so that when I open it up, it'll make a nice big smiley face. I'm going to use my page as a guide. If you'd like to use a pencil, you could totally sketch this out. Here's my plan. I'm going to use this corner as the top corner of my smile. So I've rounded out this little edge here, and I'm going to meet this top corner down to the bottom. So I'm going to swoop it up to that edge. Do the same thing on the other side. Now you'll notice I'm doing just sketches because I'm planning on cutting it out probably more smoothly. If you feel like you want to give it a different kind of sketch, you totally can. I'm going to save the rounded piece for last. Also, you noticed I didn't cut the hinge, or I didn't cut the fold all the way off. Otherwise, I'd have two separate pieces as opposed to one giant smile. Ooh, that's pretty big. I think I might trim it down just a little bit. You could make your smile thinner. You could choose to make an open mouth with teeth. This is your awesome smile, and you get to decide how it looks. I haven't glued anything down because I want to make sure that I have these pieces in the right spot for my sunshine. I'm going to turn the board over because remember that hook? We want that hook to be near the top of your sunshine. That way you know where the top of your face is. Then we'll do, again, a dry fit to make sure we like where the pieces go before we glue them down. Then once we like where they're at, we can take out our glue and glue them back down. I try to align the highlights to be very similar, but if you want to give your character some googly eyes, you could turn it and it looks quite silly. We're going to want to get glue around all of our edges of our paper pieces. That way it doesn't pop off of our sunshine. Now that we have our face pieces in place, we can take out the sequins and start adding them where we like. I decided to use my leftover paper to hold or contain my little sequins so that they're ready to go when I'm ready. Sequins have a tiny little hole in them, so sometimes the glue oozes out. It might be nice to have a handy rag to wipe your hands on as you're working with these sequins. These sequins help reflect and capture and send back out some brightness. Place them wherever you like on your sunshine. And then when you're all done, don't forget to collect the extras in the container. You could use these for another project. Put the cap back on your glue, throw away your scrap piece of papers in the recycle bin, and our extra or used cotton swabs, you can toss these in the trash. Thanks so much for joining me. I can't wait to see how your sun shines.